welcome to episode 12 of the Meeple Podcast. I'm Bill Price.
And I'm Hollis Biggs.
And we're the podcast for board game beginners. Although at this point in time, if you're following us now through 11 episodes so far, I think you're more than a beginner.
That is so kind.
I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, tough.
No, I think you're well on your journey. So we've got a couple of games today that are card games for 2 to 6 players, both of them, but both very, very different types of games, I would say.
Yeah, definitely different, but both take up about the same amount of time to play, I think.
Yeah, give or take. I could see that. One just feels more like a party game. The other feels more like, I don't know, like a more traditional kind of playing cards sort of.
Maybe that's because
game.
We played the first one in a party setting and played the second one just 2 players.
I think I've always played the one in a party setting, so maybe. Right. Okay, what do you want to talk? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about the party game first. Let's talk about Mantis.
Mantis. This is by the makers of Exploding Kittens, and it is about mantis shrimp. And there are all sorts of fascinating things about mantis shrimp, which we don't really need to talk about because this is not a real thematic game. They just had to do something, I suppose. But the artwork is really neat on these cards. It's a bunch of different types of mantis shrimp. And basically you have, I think it's 7 different colors.
That sounds, maybe it's 6.
I feel like it's 7 different colors.
Could be.
And of these shrimp. And there's a whole bunch of cards. I think there's 15 of each color. Now, on the back of these, what makes this game unique, just to set up sort of the components of it, it's entirely cards. So picture 7 colors, 15 cards of each color, and on the back of each one is not just your standard card back. It is a choice of 3 different colors, one of which is represented on the other side. So I may have a pink card, and on the back, it shows pink, green, and purple as my options for what this card could be. Now, why, you ask, would I have any care on what color's on the other side? Well, what you start with is in your tank in front of you. That's what's called your player area, is your tank. Everybody starts with 4 face-up cards. They're just dealt randomly. If you have multiple cards of the same color, then you just kind of pair them up. And so the first player has, everybody has 2 options. You can either score or steal. That's it. So every time it's your turn, score or steal. There are no other options. It's a very simple rule set. If you choose to try to score, then you draw a card from the deck, and if it matches one of the colors of one or more cards in your tank, then you take those cards, you flip them over, and you score those cards. They count as 1 point for each card you have. If you want to steal, you choose a person, and you draw a card from the deck. And if that card color matches one of the colors in front of the person you're stealing from, then you steal all that person's cards of that color. If not, they get that card that you drew into their tank for free. Free card. The way to win is to score 10 cards. Now, stealing is really a cool thing to do, and it can result in, I just stole 9 cards from this player. However, it doesn't really matter per se right then, because if you can't score it, then it doesn't matter. The other person can't score it either, but those cards still have to be in front of you for you to try and score those on your next turn. And you may not even get the right cards to score it. It's not a guarantee. It's kind of I say it's a 1 in 7, but really it's a 1 in 3 chance, because you know what your 3 options are at the top of the draw deck. So you're making educated decisions. So I could be like, oh, I'm going to steal from Hollis because she has all 3 of these colors, so I'm guaranteed to get it. Or I could say, oh, I'm going to steal from Alex because this is pink, green, and purple. It's one of those, but he has 8 pinks. So I really want to take a shot at those and see if I can get them. So there are definitely choices, fun choices, but ultimately random choices. And that's how to play the game. That's the whole thing. Let's hear what you have to say about it.
So I really enjoyed this game. I did not win a single round. We played this game multiple times in a row. We were just sitting in a brewery, having a good time with a couple of our friends, and I was so focused on stealing cards. That was my only... I know that scoring was an option, but in the back of my mind, I thought, well, that's useless. Of course, I want to steal cards from other people. That was not helpful to me.
No.
So I made some... I'm going to call them educated errors, maybe. Lapses in judgment, perhaps. But I did my best to try to steal as many cards as possible. And it typically did not work in my favor. I'd have a bunch of cards in front of me, but I think the most cards I ever scored was like 4 cards in an entire round. So, and I could see other people scoring cards, but I thought, look at those losers. They're not going to have any point. They're not going to have any cool options to steal. So, you win some, you lose some. This was still a fun game, even without winning at all. But
and that's to me why it's such a fun choice, because stealing is fun. But ultimately, stealing only puts a target on your back.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you've stolen so many cards that every card that comes up, people are like, oh, I'll steal from Hollis because she has all 3 colors. And so it's hard to hold on to. And then you have that one guy, my brother Alex, your fiance. He has a habit of always choosing to score.
And you made this known during the game, during at least one game, which yes. I think made him...
He'll steal now every once in a while, but I've played a lot of games with him where he will only score, even if he doesn't have any of the color options in front of him, because he'll just get to keep that card, and it'll be one more card he could potentially score the next time. And his reasoning is the game is won with scoring, not with stealing, and that's absolutely true. But invariably, there's always that person who... steals like, oh, I stole 8 yellows, and then I'm going to score at some point, and they score, and now they have 9 yellows, and they're scoring, and they probably won that game. So it can come as big, like, gotcha moments, which is fun.
The thing that also I probably didn't pay attention to when Bill was explaining the rules was that he's right, there are 7 colors, and there are 15 of each color. And had I been paying somewhat better attention, I might have been able to see that while I had like 8 pink cards in front of me, 7 of them had already been played. So I'm not going to be able to score it, or I'm not going to be able to steal it from anyone. Like, this is kind of the max amount that, was out there in the first place. So had I been a little better at counting cards, maybe I would have been a little bit better off, but that's not the objective of the game. The objective of the game is to have fun and to collect as many shrimp as you can.
Yes.
To score as many shrimp as you can.
Yes.
Because I
collecting them doesn't matter.
I collected a lot of them. My tank was looking pretty full.
Yes.
Did not count for much.
But this game is so much fun, and it's one that we always have on hand. My big complaint about it really has to do with the packaging. The box is twice the size that it needs to be. I actually, when I go to take it out, I pull it out of the box and I put it in a Ziploc bag. It's just a deck of cards. And this is like a full-size box. It's way too big. And I think it makes it hard to just like grab the box and go, unless that's the only game you're taking.
And portability does weight pretty heavily on at least my ranking list. I think it ranks somewhere on yours. I don't know if it's as high as mine.
Some. I like a big game too, but this once you put it in a Ziploc, the game itself is actually very small, which is cool. It is very portable. It has a good table presence without being like, awe-inspiring or anything like that. But it looks cool. I mean, people walk by and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" But yeah, I kind of see this as a party game, I guess, because I feel like there's a lot more people being like, "I'm gonna steal from you," oh, and then they flip the card, and everybody at the table is, "Oh," and you just have these times where like you just get really raucous, and that is not the case with the next game we'll talk about, but this, I think that's what makes me think of this as a party game, because everyone gets so into it and has so many of those like out loud kind of, cheering moments where everybody's kind of rooting for somebody to steal all of these cards from somebody who's just been brutalizing everybody else. And so
I think I also like that all of your cards are on the table in front of you. You don't have any like hidden cards, any secret, no secret cards that can, would impact the way you play the game. Everything's all right out there. So it's kind of nice from that aspect. You don't have to have anything in your hands. It's a pretty easy game to travel with, to play.
For sure.
Definitely there's some strategies that you could, utilize to win. I don't know any of those, but maybe you should listen to Bill on that one, but it was a really good game, and we played it a couple of times in a row. It was so good.
Yeah, I've played it. I probably played this game. I think I've played it 32 times this year. And it's a lot of fun. I like it in big settings. It does play 2 to 6. So it will play 2-player with some modifications. There's a couple rule differences, but it's 90% the same game. One thing I wanted to say right off the bat with this one in particular is I normally don't like, and that's what surprised me so much about this game, is I normally don't like take that games. I think I've ranted about this before.
Definitely.
On this podcast. That I don't like games that just arbitrarily hurt somebody for the sake of hurting somebody. I've been building up this hand for 4 turns, and all of a sudden somebody's like, Bill loses card. And I'm like, well, this was stupid. Discard your whole hand. Well, what? Why? Like, why? And why me? Like, what's this? It's not fair. And I don't like games that don't seem fair. Like, you just happen to draw the card that ruins my whole game. That sucks. That's not a good feeling. But in Mantis, stealing from somebody doesn't ruin their game.
No.
Because they can steal it back. In fact, they can steal bigger stuff from other people. It doesn't hurt you when you get stolen from, because your points are what matters. And as nobody can steal your points. And so it just is this, everything's kind of going back and forth, and it's almost like you're playing catch with everybody until somebody catches the ball and, puts it in front of them, and then they score it. So it's it may seem like a take that game up front, but I really enjoy this, and I do not like those kinds of games normally. So.
Yeah. You're absolutely right when you say you can steal all you want, but if you don't score it, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And someone can steal it from you on the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the most I got at any given time, I think I got 8 of a single card. And someone stole it from me, and I thought, oh my God, my game's over. This sucks.
But it's not.
It doesn't. No. And I think the way it turned out, no one ended up scoring those cards
it may not have
by the end of the game.
It may not have been possible.
So, it didn't matter much, and I think it was kind of a wild thing to watch and to play.
Yeah, for sure. So that is Mantis by Exploding Kittens. What's up next?
Next game is Love Letter.
Love Letter. Okay, for anybody who is unfamiliar with Love Letter, Love Letter is a very, very, very popular, we'll call it system. The original game is Love Letter. They come in these games come usually in these velvety pouches, drawstring bags. So it's called a microgames. There's normally 16 cards-ish. Some are 18. Some of the later ones will have more, just based on player count or whatever they're doing. But it's a very, very small, it's considered a micro card game. And there are all kinds of different versions. I have an H.P. Lovecraft version. I have a Marvel Thanos version. I have an Archer version. There's a Batman version. Adventure Time, Bridgerton. There's a million of these. There's got to be 20 different love letters out there. Very, very popular love letters sold at Target and Walmart and Amazon and every other place. It is a mass market game, but it's not just one. Well, that's what makes it so cool. Is it's not just one game. It's a system, and every game does something a little bit different. It'll have a couple of cards that really change up gameplay a lot and make things very different. So what we played today actually was Original Love Letter, because that's the one I wanted you to see first. Yep. And we'll obviously at some point in time, I'm sure we will play multiple other love letters. And this one plays 2 to 6, and basically every card kind of does something, and you have one card in your hand, and then on your turn you'll draw another card. So your choice is play card A or play card B, and that's it. That's the whole game. Then you just do what the card says. The card may be something like look at another player's hand, or name a player and then guess a specific card, and if they have it, then they're out of the round. It could be something like compare strengths with like number cards with somebody else, and whoever has the highest is is still in the round. Whoever has the lowest is out of the round. Once the round is over, the last person that's still left gets a what are they called?
Like a little token?
A token almost of some sort. It's a prosperity token, or I don't know, some kind of token. And the goal is to win a certain number of these tokens. With 2 players, it's 6, and I think all the way up to 6 players, I think it's the first one to win 3 of them. And that also varies with every game. With the Lovecraft one, there's insanity tokens and sanity tokens, and you have to have you win different ones based on what you play with, whether you're insane or sane, and then you have to get a certain number more than the other, and so it gets a little more complicated. But basically, it is a very simple draw a card, play one of the 2 cards in your hand, and if you're the last one in the round, you win that round and you get a token, and then you just shuffle up the cards and play it again. And it can be very quick. When Hollis and I played, there were instances where like the first player plays a card and wins the round. And there were ones that got really deep into the deck. If you get all the way through the deck, which like I said is very small, like 16 or 18 cards, then whoever has the highest card at the end of that will win. We didn't get into any showdowns. That's actually pretty rare. I think I've only had that happen a handful of times. But it is well loved for a reason, because it is so small, it is so easy to understand, and it's so portable. It takes almost no table space. You can play this sitting on a bar stool and, a tiny little bar. You can play it at a 2-top table with a drink and a plate. You just have to have room for a draw deck and for your discards. That's it.
The other nice thing is that you typically, at most, will have 2 cards in your hand. I think in this version, there's an option where you can draw 2 more cards and then discard. You're effectively like redrawing your hand.
It puts you back down to 1. So you'll always have 1 card in your hand unless it's your turn, in which case you'll have 2 and you'll have to play 1. So there's very little to keep track of. And there's player aids player aid cards that tell you how many of each number are in there. So like if you're guessing, do you have the handmade, the number 4? You know that there's 2 of those in the deck. And I did get her with that a couple times, I think.
So unfortunate. I don't think I won this game either. I came close.
No, close. Much closer the second time.
This game is kind of fun because, I don't know that Bill mentioned this, but it's kind of anybody's game up until the very last token's drawn, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. My wife and I, Kirsten, have played this game, hundreds and hundreds of times. It's not even an exaggeration. Usually the Archer version, But we've played it so many times that we've had complete clean sweeps, 6-0. We've had it go down to 6-5. We've had we have kind of a meta where when she plays a card, I kind of have an idea, pretty good idea of what the other card in her hand is, just based on how she played it and what part of the game she played it in. There's cards where like, there's no way she would play that card unless this other card's in there, and so there's and vice versa. And I have a ton of tells too, so it's this game is much deeper than it seems. It seems like really fluffy card game at first, but it can have a lot of nuance.
I'm definitely gonna have to hit up Kirsten and see if she can tell me all your tells. So that way I can be a little bit more competitive the next few times we play this. But this was a really good game. Like you said, it's very portable, which is something that pretty heavily factors into how I rate how I rank each of the games we've played. So I like it from that aspect. And I also like that none of the rounds took more than 5 minutes, I would say.
I don't think I'm not sure
it's
any
like
of the rounds took
might
more than like 2
2
minutes.
minutes, but
yeah, they're pretty quick.
Maybe 5 at most.
Yeah.
If you get through the entire deck, I suppose. And again, when we say deck, Bill's right. It's like 16 or 18 cards, something like that. So pretty easy, pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not terribly like much strategy to it. Like I wouldn't say there's like an overarching.
It's a lot of luck.
Strategy, but yeah, you're right.
But I think the player who has played it the most will have an advantage, even if it's a smaller advantage, just because they kind of, once you play it enough times, you kind of see how certain combinations work together and how playing this card sets something up for another card, and just kind of recognizing when you sort of have a winning combination going, or how to hide. There's a card, the Princess, where if you have to discard it or play it, then you immediately lose the round. So there can be some strategy around, okay, I need to make sure that I don't get put in a position where I have to discard this card. Or I need to make sure that if the other person has it, or I think they have it, that I have something that can make them discard the card. And there are cards that do that. So.
And I almost came very close to losing a round where I had the 8 card, which is in this game is a Countess. And the rule on that card is that you must play that card. And it's an 8. Like it's pretty high in the ranking scale here. So if you're ever forced to have a showdown with your opponent, it could really help you win. However, if you have a king or a prince in your hand, which are the 7 or 5 cards, you have to play it immediately, which is really tough because there's a solid chance that you could draw one of those. There's 2 prince cards in this deck and there's 1 king card. So it came very close. I drew a king card after I was already forced to play it, which was frustrating, but I could see how that would have really impacted me had I drawn it at the same time. So,
and that's another way. If your opponent knows the cards well enough and he sees you play the Countess, then he has a pretty good idea that you probably have one of those other 2. And if he's got a guard, which is the number 1 card that lets you guess what somebody else is holding, then they can win that round. So it's I really, really like this whole system. I haven't played one of these that I don't really enjoy. So we didn't actually give a rating for Mantis or Love Letter. So let's go back to Mantis for a sec. What's your rating on Mantis?
I'm gonna rank it pretty high just because I really liked it. I like the kind of party game setting for this game, and that was obviously how we played it. But I am gonna give Mantis an 8.5. Some points off for the weird large box.
Yeah,
when it comes in.
I'm gonna give it an 8. It is a game I will definitely pick for if I'm going out with 4, 5, 6 people. It's probably not one I would pick off the shelf in like game night with 1 or 2 other people. It's much more of a I'm going to call it a party-ish type of game for me. So I think it plays best at higher player counts. But there's nothing wrong with it at 2 or 3 player at all. I just kind of prefer, I think it lends itself better to larger groups. So that's kind of why what took a point or two off for me, that and the enormously large box. What about Love Letter? What are you doing that?
Love Letter, I also really enjoyed. I like how quick the game is, and I love how portable it is. I just didn't find it as party game-ish.
Right.
So, like, in this scenario, I'm probably going to give it a 7, but okay. I still really enjoyed it and would definitely play it again. Many times, probably.
Nice. I'd probably give it a 7.5 if I'm sort of rating all of them put together. There's a time I probably would have given the system as a whole a 10, but wow. I've played it so much. You can kind of get a little burnout, I think, on some of these. So, but I'll still play Love Letter anytime anybody wants to. So,
definitely a good one.
All right, so I think that does it for episode 12 here. If you know of a gateway game that you really enjoy, you want us to talk about, and just let us know. You can send us an email at themeeplepodcast@gmail.com, or you can check us out at the Meeple Podcast on Instagram or Facebook, and check out our website at www.themeeplepodcast.com, and I have a page there where I have a picture and a listing of every game we talk about, what episode it's talked about on, what our rating is, how many players it plays, and how long it takes, and all that good stuff. So that's a resource I update every week, so take advantage of it.
It's a good one. Thanks, guys, for listening in.
See you next time.